Hi all, today we'll be going through the configuration of Single Touch Payroll Phase 2. This is a fair bit of work to get through, but the concept is fairly simple and you only need to do this work once when configuring. Once you've done this config, you can continue using Caladium as you have been for the previous few years. All you need to do is change the category you're submitting for to 2022, but we will go through that at the end of this video. First thing you'll need to do is go to Data Entry and Accounting Values. From here, you want to make sure that your Single Touch Payroll is switched on. To say you will be submitting Single Touch Payroll through this software. If you're submitting through another platform, leave this as no. You also need to toggle the Registered to Employ Working Holiday Makers Visas Workers here to yes or no. This will feed into your report. So if you do declare working holiday visas in your payroll and have this switched to no, that will be a red flag for the tax office and they'll probably give you a call about that. So do make sure you tick that to be correct. And after that, you want to go into data entry into company details. And this is only if you're migrating from one platform to another, previous PMS identifier. Give us a call if you do need to migrate away from another platform to Venus. We will need to enter this in there and we can give you a hand with that. It's not too big a job. So the first large amount of data entry you may need to do is relating to your shift types. Just going into types and reviewing shift types, you'll see some new information here. Primarily this overtime tick box here. Some clients use adjustments or allowances for payment of overtime. Some people have standalone rates. You will need to use a standalone rate for overtime moving forward, but the shift type associated to that rate will need to be identified as overtime here. When creating an overtime roster, by default, the Effect Super will be disabled. You can override that if you have contracted superannuation on your overtime, but the default will be ticked to does not accrue super. So this will require you creating rates to reflect overtime and replacing any adjustments or allowances that you may be using in place of overtime. So we can no longer do workarounds for overtime. You need to actually flag it as overtime against the shift type. There's also increased reporting on allowances. And as you can see from the allowance types menu, we have hard-coded in the types to be selected here. And they include car, for example, cents per kilometre, transport, which is award transport payments, laundry, meals, overtime meal allowances, travel, domestic or overseas, tool allowances, any task allowances, any certificates, and other. If you are confused as to what type of allowance to identify your allowances as, you will need to engage your accounting professional or payroll professional. This will mean that any allowances that you're currently using, you will need to put an end date on those. And you will need to create a new allowance for any allowances that are to be paid through STP Phase 2. Against the employee, you'll see a new Single Touch Payroll tab. In this tab, you need to identify the engagement type that this person is under. If they are STP exempt for any reason, the previous payroll ID will be used for anyone who was previously employed by you, who was terminated and is returning. If you need to enter a second entry for them, this is where you can enter that detail. The employment basis. Very few of our clients will be using anything other than part-time and casual. A cessation type code will be entered upon cessation or termination of the employment. This will need to be entered before the final pay, the termination payment for that employee. The income stream type will almost overwhelmingly be salary and wages for anyone using our products. The country code is also identified here. This does need to be selected and will default to Australia. Furthermore, the ATO want to know when you are paying a termination payment. The termination payment may have a taxable component and a non-taxable component. This is where you can identify what is taxable, what is not. You can have two line items, one taxable, one is not. You tick it ready to pay when you are ready to pay that termination payment. This will be processed as per a standard pay run. There is also greater granularity on the leave payments. Leave payment types now incorporate leave without pay, cashed out leave, paid parental leave, as well as workers' compensation payments. There is also a payment type of annual leave final payout. This is to be paid upon termination of employment and will reduce the balance of the leave to zero. There is also further granularity on child protection payments. With these boxes here being child support protected earnings adjustments, being either a deduction or a garnishee payment that is required for the STP Phase 2 report. Lump sum payments will also be considered in adjustments now. If we insert a new, have a lump sum payment, we choose the lump sum type here. If you are to pay a lump sum type, you will need to reach out to your accountant or payroll professional to identify what lump sum payment type you should use. And we also have return to work payments in here as well, if you have been instructed by WorkCover to pay those. Rare use cases, but it is there for future proofing of the product. We also have bonuses and commissions, directors' fees and CDEP listed here as other types of lump sum payments. For Caladium, the only thing you need to consider in addition to what you do already is to choose the version of 2020 instead of 2018, and that should submit as per usual. You may see some new error messages from the ATO regarding your submissions, as there is more data to collect, and approach us for clarification if you are unsure of what to look at when receiving those error results.